Most people move through life with a quiet ache they can't quite explain. They wake up tired, drift through their days overwhelmed, and go to bed with that nagging question, is this all there is? It's not a lack of effort. It's not laziness or apathy. It's the absence of something deeper. A compass, a sense of direction when life gets noisy and chaotic. And that's exactly where Stoicism comes in. Not as a dusty philosophy, but as a way of life grounded in 4 timeless virtues: courage, discipline, justice, and wisdom. These aren't just lofty ideas. They're practical tools, anchors for a life of clarity, strength, and resilience. Courage moves you when fear says freeze. Discipline keeps you steady when motivation disappears. Justice gives your strength meaning and wisdom. Wisdom cuts through the noise and brings everything into focus. So if you've been feeling unmoored, like you're just reacting instead of leading, this is your invitation to something better. And if you're finding value in this space, we're building together. I'll ask one simple favor: hit the subscribe button. It's free, but it makes a real difference. Let's begin where every transformation starts with courage, because the more you reflect on it, the more you realize everything hinges on this one word, and courage. It's not always loud. It's not just for the battlefield or the spotlight. It's found in the quiet, uncomfortable moments no one ever sees. It's the courage to be honest in a world addicted to pretending, the courage to forgive someone who isn't even sorry, the courage to leave what's familiar even when it feels safe, and most of all, it takes courage to be yourself, especially when yourself doesn't fit the mold. Carl Jung said it best: the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But what he didn't say outright is how terrifying that can feel, because the moment you stop pretending, you risk being seen, and being seen means being judged or misunderstood or rejected. But here's what Stoicism teaches us: being misunderstood is not the problem. Living a life that's not yours is. Marcus Aurelius reminds us again and again that we were made for something more. He wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." That's the Stoic way: not to wait for the fear to go away, not to debate endlessly about what the right thing is, but to act, to stand up, to live out the values we talk about. Let's zoom out for a second. Why does this matter so much? Because if you let fear run the show, your world gets smaller. You say no to more things. You avoid risks. You duck from growth. And one day you look around and realize you've built a life not from passion, but from avoidance. That's not life. That's survival. Unmute fear is clever. It disguises itself as logic. It tells you to wait until the timing is right, or play it safe just in case, or my personal favorite: what will people think? But as the Stoics would say, those people, they're not in the arena with you. Their opinions won't live with the consequences of your inaction. You will think about it like this: you're standing on a cliff. Not a dangerous one, but the metaphorical kind. Below is everything you've outgrown. Behind you is everything you've already done, and ahead is the leap, the new thing, the truth you keep trying to ignore. Maybe it's starting a business, or ending a relationship, or moving across the country, or telling someone how you really feel. You know you need to jump, but your legs won't move. This is the moment where most people shrink. They turn around, they walk back to the comfort zone, and they call it logic. But the Stoic path, it asks for more. It asks you to jump with fear still in your chest. It asks you to trust that your wings will grow on the way down, because here's the paradox: you don't build courage by thinking about it. You build courage by using it every time you push past the fear. Even a little, you send yourself a message: I can do hard things, and that message rewires you. It becomes your inner voice, not the one that says, what if you fail, but the one that says, what if this changes everything? Socrates once said, the unexamined life is not worth living. I'd add to that, the unlived life isn't either, and a life lived in fear isn't truly lived. It's delayed, postponed, watered down. Let's break it down into something you can actually do. Don't try to conquer fear. All at once, start tiny. Send the email, sign up for the class. Speak the truth in one conversation. Just one uncomfortable action per day. That's it, nothing fancy. One small moment where you feel the fear and do it anyway. Stack those day after day and watch what happens. You begin to feel lighter, stronger, like someone you trust. Here's the magic: fear doesn't disappear, but your relationship to it changes. It becomes familiar. Like background noise, you feel it, nod at it, and move anyway. That's what courage looks like. Not loud, not flashy, just steady. Plato taught that courage is knowing, looking stupid, of getting rejected. But we're not afraid enough of staying stuck, of losing years to hesitation, of becoming strangers to our own potential. Let that sink in. We fear failure more than we fear wasting our life. Let me ask you something straight up. What would you do if you weren't scared? What would you chase? What would you change? Who would you be? That version of you. It's not a fantasy. It's just on the other side of a choice. One choice, and you can make it right now. But here's the thing, and this is where we transition. Courage gets you started, but it doesn't carry you through. You can be bold today and still fall off tomorrow. You can face your fear in the moment and still fall back into old patterns. Next week, that's where the next Stoic virtue comes in. You've had your moment of bravery, you said the thing, you showed up, but now can you stay the course? Can you keep showing up when no one's watching? Can you choose progress over comfort? Not just once, but over and over again. That's not courage anymore. That's discipline. Here's the thing nobody tells you about discipline. It's not loud. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't get likes or retweets. It happens in quiet places behind closed doors. Early in the morning, late at night, when no one's watching and no one will ever know. It's built in those tiny, invisible moments where you make a choice: comfort or growth, rest or reps, delay or do. And most people don't even realize those moments are choices, but they are. Every time you hit snooze, every time you quit early, every time you do it later, you're training something, you're building habits, whether you mean to or not. And the scary part? Your brain keeps score. As Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Discipline makes you conscious aware. It shines a light on the quiet deals you make with yourself, and it dares you to stop breaking them. The Stoics knew this centuries ago. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, most powerful man in the world, still had to drag himself out of bed in the morning. One of his most famous passages in Meditations is literally him giving himself a pep talk. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. That's not weakness. That's the truth. The man had everything: power, luxury, control, and still had to fight the same internal war. We do because discipline isn't about having it all together. It's about choosing to show up even when everything in you says. Don't you ever noticed how easy it is to make promises to other people and how hard it is to keep the ones you make to yourself? Why is that? Why is it so hard to write that page a day, or commit to eating clean for a week, or finally start that course you keep talking about? It's because self-discipline is the highest form of respect, and most people have never learned how to respect themselves in action. Not just theory, but every time you keep a promise to yourself. No matter how small, your self-respect grows slowly, steadily, quietly, and eventually, you start seeing yourself as the kind of person who follows through you. Trust yourself. That's rare. That's real power. Here's something to consider. Discipline is love, but not the soft, romanticized kind. It's the tough, boundary-setting structure, giving kind. It's the voice that says, I care too much about you to let you sabotage yourself again. It's the version of you that refuses to keep repeating the same story. It's not about punishment, it's about freedom. Think about that for a second. Discipline creates freedom when you build discipline around your money. You don't panic when the car breaks down. When you build discipline around your schedule, You have time to think, create, breathe. When you build discipline around your health, you don't need to fear. Every new diagnosis or trend discipline takes the chaos of life and builds a rhythm out of it. A beat. A groove, something you can move to, something that holds you steady when everything else feels out of control. Plato once said, "The first and best victory is to conquer self. To be conquered by self is of all things the most shameful and vile." And that's a harsh truth, but an honest one. If you can't lead yourself, how can you expect to lead anything else? Your team, your family, your future. It all flows from your ability to govern your own actions. That's why the Stoics didn't just sit around in togas thinking about virtue. They trained, they walked through storms, barefoot, they fasted, they exposed themselves to discomfort, on purpose, not to suffer, not to show off, but to prove to themselves that they were stronger than circumstance, that their comfort wasn't their master. What about us? Maybe we don't walk barefoot through Rome, but we do live in a world of cheap dopamine. Easy excuses, constant distraction, and in that world, even 5 minutes of focused effort is rebellion. 1 hour of deep work is a revolution. Hitting the gym instead of hitting snooze is a declare. Really is. It's not about rigid control. It's about taking back your power, bit by bit, action by action, habit by habit. You don't have to overhaul your life today. That's a trap. Just win the next moment. Make the right choice. Once, then do it again. That's all discipline is even. Socrates, the wisest man in Athens, knew the value of effort, he said. No man has the right to be an amateur in the matter of physical training. It is a shame for a man to grow old without seeing the beauty and strength of which his body is capable. It's not about vanity, it's about potential. What else are you leaving on the table because you won't stick with something long enough to see what's possible? Let me ask you this: what could your life look like 90 days from now if you kept just one promise to yourself daily for 90 days? Doesn't need to be big, just consistent. Could be journaling, could be cold showers, could be no social media before 10 o'clock am. Whatever it is, own it, make it sacred, and if you fall off, cool. Get back on. That's part of the training too, because discipline doesn't demand perfection. It just demands your effort every day, even on the hard days, especially on the hard days. So, start small today. Pick one thing. Just one locket. In 7 days, then stretch it to 10. Then a month. You're not trying to be perfect. You're trying to become someone who doesn't break promises to themselves anymore. And when you build that version of you, there's no storm you can't weather, no goal you can't outlast, no challenge that can steal your soul. That's not hype. That's fact. That's what the Stoics knew. That's what modern psychology confirms, and that's what discipline delivers. Now, if discipline gives you strength, the next question is, what will you do with that strength? Because power, where everyone has an opinion, loud, constant, and often conflicting social medias, a battlefield of beliefs, news cycles. Thank you for being part of Echoes of Stoicism, a space for growth, clarity, and strength of character. We'll be here whenever you're ready to come back and keep building.